we're going to look at vulnerability and from the perspective of defining and aligning with that which is within us. Today is Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday is a Christian observance that occurs the Sunday before Easter. This celebration commemorates Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem, mentioned in each of the four Gospels. Jesus entered the city knowing he would be tried and crucified. Palm Sunday signifies the end of Lent and the beginning of Holy Week, the remembrance of Jesus' last days. It also commemorates the arrival of Jesus in Jerusalem days before his death. Now, there is a metaphysical meaning to Palm Sunday, and it is threefold. And this is according to the founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore. Jerusalem represents our consciousness of spiritual peace, the place within where the Christ triumphs, and we present in our spiritual plane of mastery, purity, and peace. This is the place of prosperity within each one of us. Next, Jesus symbolizes our consciousness of spiritual peace. Jesus symbolizes the I am within each of us, and his ride into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday symbolizes the last step in our preparation for the crucifixion of our own ego personality, allowing the Christ within us to prevail. The Christ takes control and removes our animal and fleshly forces. Finally, the spreading of the palm branches in the middle, the spreading of the palm branches by the multitudes represents joyful obedience and homage for the change in consciousness where error consciousness has been overcome and eliminated. In his book, The Revealing Word, Charles Fillmore describes the palm tree as a metaphysical symbol of one's realization of ultimate strength in the physical realm. And Ernest Holmes, our founder, also writes about Palm Sunday. Jesus spoke of the joy which we had and which he desired us to have, which he had and which he desires us to have, that our joy might be full. There is music at the center of everything. The melody is real. We must uncover the song and permit it to saturate our souls with joy. The ancients said, the wind whispers, the leaves clap their hands, and the morning stars sing together. Spiritual living is not a droll affair. It is the triumphant entry of the soul into the secret place of the Most High, where the scroll of life is inscribed with the joyous words, I am the Lord thy God in the midst of thee. And this is from his writings in Spiritual Awareness. Now, the story of Palm Sunday and Jesus' awareness of his betrayal and death is a perfect segue into our theme for April, the power of vulnerability. You know, hearing the word vulnerability can make us cringe. I know when I first heard it before I got an understanding of it, it's like, ooh, I don't want to go there. However, do we really know what vulnerability means? Today, we begin the journey towards a greater understanding of the power of vulnerability by defining, aligning, and gaining clarity around what vulnerability is, what it is not, and why it is important. We will explore what may get in the way of being vulnerable and what steps we can take to navigate this path. Remembering that authenticity and meaningful connection are born out of vulnerability. Authenticity and meaningful connection are born out of vulnerability. Vulnerability is a key ingredient in our own personal transformation. It creates an expanded awareness of what lies just below the surface, allowing us to see vulnerability is a building block for a thriving and healthy community. And community in this context includes all areas of our lives, whether we are in a spiritual community or within community within ourselves and others. And so let's look at this deeper from a science of mind perspective. Feeling vulnerable is an expression of fear. I want to let that sit in the room for a moment. Feeling vulnerable is an expression of fear. Ernest Holmes spoke often about faith overcoming fear and wrote about this. And here are a few quotes to encourage us. Every one of us has in back of us the potential of the universe. We have the full potential of the universe in back of us. There is an irresistible potential pressing against everyone for self-expression. This is what is being called forth, our self-expression. If we listen, we will hear it, not as a voice, but as a feeling, as a divine urge to express. And this is from Creative Living. And yesterday in our visioning, on Saturday, we gathered to vision for our spiritual community. And then on Sunday mornings, we gathered to vision for our personal life and for our goals. Yesterday in our visioning, as we were listening for the feeling tone to emerge, what emerged through one of the participants was to allow this to occur naturally, to let nature take its course, to reveal itself through us, to reveal what it is that we are to be and what we are to do. Ernest Holmes wrote in the Science of Mind magazine in the January 2001 issue, "We resist being what we really are. We need to accept the fuller expression of the mind that is within us. And this is the divine mind. For in its creative flow through us rests our entire future. The greater person that we are and the richer life we desire to enjoy." And then from his writings and observations are these words: "We should come then to this great reservoir of nature, to this infinite side of ourselves, in full and simple trust, in confidence, and in faith." These quotes offer direction to the understanding that the reality of our essence is the ability to express ourselves fully within this life. We're not striving to express something in an afterlife or in a place that is called heaven, which is separate from where we are. What is being called forth is for us to fully express in this life and to experience heaven on earth. In a world that often seeks to contain or suppress our true expression, vulnerability becomes an integral piece in actualizing with spirit. And I like to inject a little humor to just lighten things up a little bit. And so I have a story to share about fear and vulnerability. There's a monastery in Tibet that is perched high in the mountains. And one has to hike for almost an entire day just to get to the base of the cliff, rising into the mist-shrouded peaks. From there, from the base, the way to the entrance requires being suspended in a basket and pulled to the top by several monks. Obviously, the ride at the steep cliff in a basket can be terrifying. One traveler became exceedingly nervous about halfway up as they noticed that the rope suspending the basket was old and frayed. They felt completely vulnerable and afraid. And with a trembling voice, they asked the monk who was riding with them how often they changed the rope. So the monk looked at the rope, thought about it for a moment, and responded, whenever it breaks. Of course, halfway up this destination, I'm not sure how the traveler was feeling, but I would be wondering, okay, I'm halfway up here. Do I continue up? Do I have to go back down? If I go back down and the fall and the rope breaks, what's the distance to the fall? How am I going to land? I can just imagine all of these questions going through my mind. And I would imagine that the traveler is uttering lots of prayers, probably audible as well as silent, deciding, do I want to continue to go up? Am I going to, what are the other travelers going to feel like if I request to go down? It's just one of those pivotal moments where you face the fear and you move through it. Understanding vitality. Let's establish some guidelines, if you will, and some illustration points. So we'll look at what it is, what it is not, and why it is important. And so a basic definition of vulnerability is to explore the depths of ourselves and others, even when we are unsure of what may occur or what we may uncover. It is a call to begin to examine areas in our lives where we have been resistant, for whatever reason, to be vulnerable. In stepping out, whether literally or metaphorically, in the face of fear and uncertainty for the purpose of a fully expression of ourselves and others. So it's an invitation to examine those areas of our lives that we often restrict, and also an invitation to step out into that face of fear, knowing that we will experience a fuller expression of ourselves and others. This may include taking chances that might lead to rejection, talking about mistakes that you or I have made, or feeling difficult emotions, or being honest about our boundaries and our expectations. Remember last month, as we talked about cultivating authenticity, we talked about the importance of establishing clear boundaries and expectations for ourselves, defining those boundaries and using those boundaries as an invitation to invite others in, and yet having a clear definition of what is acceptable, what I will do and what I will not do, what I will accept and what I will not accept. So we take chances. So what vulnerability is not? Vulnerability is not oversharing or dumping inappropriate amounts of information or personal history with wild abandon. Have you ever found yourself in a setting where maybe it's a small group and there's some sharing going on, and there's one person in the group that tends to dominate the sharing, and they use it as an opportunity to dump and to let all of their emotional baggage come out, and really create yuck in the group? This is not vulnerability. Vulnerability, another thing that vulnerability is not, for the sake of saying, look at me, I'm being vulnerable and I'm sharing about myself. Nobody wants to hear all of our stuff. They may smile, give us the nice and phony, but it's like inside us, will they hurry up and shut up, or will you hurry up and get to the point? We all have that shared experience, I'm sure. And I remember as a new minister, one of the encouragements was that our role as a minister is to grow in the public eye. And at the same time, we're not to use our community for our personal, emotional dumping ground. And I've seen this happen in communities. And this is why ministers are encouraged, strongly encouraged, to have a practitioner to work with and to work through our own fear and our vulnerability so that when we do come into and present in our community, we express authentically. And it's not a dumping ground that leaves everybody going out feeling like, what just happened? We want the what just happened to be an experience of joy and excitement and upliftment that says, I had an experience today that is going to help me get through whatever the next challenges or opportunities that this adventure of life is calling me to. The tone and motive of vulnerability is born out of the desire to fully express oneself for the purpose of authenticity and connection. To be vulnerable is not to be without boundaries, and it is not to be a doormat. So in allowing ourselves to talk about our fear, to express our fear, to move through some of those fear experiences, we do not set ourselves up to become a doormat. This is where our boundaries come into place, where we have that, if you will, when I worked in corporate, sometimes we would talk about building this invisible glass wall around the particular workspace where I'm not going to let any of that negativity come in and influence what it is that I'm working on. And we do that in our personal lives. You know, we establish boundaries that keep us safe, that keep us in a joyful place, always remembering that we are one with Spirit, that we are the place where God shows up. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is instead a conscious choice to express our thoughts, our feelings, and desires. And so why is this important? Vulnerability is the necessary action for both self-expression and connection. Let's not, however, be tricked into thinking that it's an easy task, nor should we disconnect the fact that individual and societal influences often create boundaries to its actualization. One of my teachers coined a phrase, and I don't know if she actually coined it, but it was the first time that I heard it. And I think about this often as we face our day-to-day experiences in life. And that phrase is, we are continually bombarded by weapons of mass distraction. These weapons of mass distraction are there to take our attention away from our true authenticity and our being as and living as the life of God. Authenticity is an important adventure to begin the conversation with the willingness to engage and explore our own authenticity and invite others to do the same. It's an invitation to authentic self-expression. Vulnerability becomes the starting point of authenticity and connection to ourselves, to Spirit, and to the world around us. It calls us to bring our own unique expression to life while extending the same invitation to others. And so some takeaways that I offer to you this morning is, I bring us back to one of our opening quotes by Ernest Holmes from Creative Living. There is an irresistible potential pressing against everyone for self-expression. If we listen, we will hear it. It's not a voice, but a feeling, a divine urge to express. Being vulnerable allows us to build trust and intimacy in relationships, to foster empathy and understanding, to increase our self-worth, our sense of self-worth, and to build relationships with those who serve and work together in partnership and in community. Vulnerability is showing up and being seen, even in the face of fear and shame. Vulnerability allows us to add color to our unfinished canvas. Each day, life offers to us a blank canvas, and we have the opportunity to create on that canvas what we choose to experience that day. So vulnerability allows us to add color to that unfinished canvas. And our affirmation for the week is, vulnerability is my authentic state. Let us say that together. Vulnerability is my authentic state. And the application of the affirmation, if you choose to do this, is to, during the week, ask, what areas of my life are the most important, challenging to exercise vulnerability? What are the areas in my life that are important for me to exercise vulnerability? And so let us now join together in consciousness, recognizing the all-prevailing presence of Spirit, turning within to that place of recognition, knowing that there is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is whole. It is perfect. It is complete. It is a life that I am living right here, right now. And it is the life of those who are gathered here in the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living. It is the life of those who are joining us via the means of electronic media, whether you're joining via Zoom, whether you're viewing this on Facebook, whether you're viewing it on YouTube, knowing that each one is living as the life of God. And that life is whole, perfect, and complete in the mind of God. No mistakes have been made in God. And all the ways that we seem to fail, it all fades into God. And so I speak my word this morning, declaring that there is a power and a presence for good in this universe. And that as we embrace our vulnerability and face our fear and our shame, that we move through whatever those external barriers are that have temporarily blocked us from remembering the essence of who we are as individualized expressions of this divine creative intelligence. I speak a word of blessing for those who are facing transitions in life. The transitions may be the experience of a loved one or a dear friend who has stepped off of this mortal plane into the next chapter of this grand adventure that is called life. One who has passed from this expression to the next expression. Transitions may look like moving into a place of recovery and letting go of those past experiences that have created hurt and shame and blame. Transitions may look like moving into areas of right livelihood, right areas for compensation that adds value to one's life and to the lives of the broader planet. Transitions may look like moving into right and perfect living spaces, a space where love is expressed, where there is an energy that lights up the entire space that says, all is well, because all is divine and all is in perfect order with Spirit right here and right now. And I bless places where individuals are gathering in the name and nature of oneness and wholeness, recognizing that there are many paths that lead to this place that we call home. And there are parts where our paths will be parallel, and there are parts where our paths will intersect. And it is at those intersection points that we trust and we become vulnerable. We move through that fear, and we learn from each other, and we walk hand in hand together in spirit. And for this and so much more, I am eternally grateful. And I release this word, I release this prayer, I release this treatment back into that law, which always says yes. And I just allow it to be so. And if any of what I have said resonates with you in any way, please affirm it with me as we say, and so it is. I want to take this opportunity, as I often do, to remind all of us that practitioners and ministers are here to support you with whatever may appear to be a challenge in life. We meet you from that place where God shows up as each one of us. We're open, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, creating that safe space for each one to step into that confidential space. And so the practitioners here at the Monterey Center, we are listed on our website, we're listed in our newsletter. We also partner with our Centers for Spiritual Living World Ministry of Prayer. That contact information is on our website. And we also partner with Silent Unity, and their contact information is on our website. And so whatever seeming challenge you may be facing, you don't have to do it alone. And now is the time for us to participate in the flow of life that is known as sharing our abundance and our prosperity. We have an affirmation of abundance that I invite us now to say together. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the uninterrupted flow of abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And in gratitude for the ways that you continue to support our spiritual community that allows us to gather as well as do our outreach into the community. You may contribute to the center by mail, and our address is on the screen. You may text to give, and that number is on our screen. And you may also donate online to our website, www.montereycsl.org, and click on the donate button. And while you're on the website, if you're not a subscriber to the newsletter, please click on the subscribe button so that you can be informed of what is going on in our community. Next Sunday is Easter, and we have something exciting that is planned. And I'm going to ask Denise to come forward and share with us a little bit of what is in store for us on Easter Sunday.
Juices went into overdrive yesterday, thinking, oh my gosh, Easter's a week away. You know me, Miss Fun Queen. Next week for Easter, we're going to have an adult scavenger hunt, an Easter egg scavenger hunt. But today is Creative Expression Sunday, so we're inviting anybody who would like to stay and play for a little bit to help us write affirmative statements that are life-affirming. We're going to put them in our plastic eggs. And next week, the Grand Easter Bunny Committee will hide them around the sanctuary. So be sure to show up, because the scavenger hunt's going to be a little bit different, Easter egg hunt, but it's a egg hunt for adults. And because Richard and I this year are not going to eat out with friends for Easter, I just declared Easter brunch party after church for anybody who would like to stay and share Easter lunch with us. I'll be baking a ham and some scalloped potatoes, and it's a potluck. So if you want to bring a dish, that's fine. but whoever stays after service, we'll have lunch together.
Thank you, Denise. So there's always something exciting that is happening here at the center. And we invite those of us who are in our virtual community to create your own Easter celebration. Easter is about joy, it's about the spring, it's about the new life, it's about new growth. And so create your own celebration. And if Monterey happens to be one of the places on your destination calendar, we invite you to be here next Sunday for our Easter celebration. And also any other Sunday that you find yourself in the neighborhood. Our doors are open and you are welcome to join us. And I believe that is going to cover our special announcements for this morning. I know that I asked the tech team to prepare some slides, but let's skip those for this morning. Yeah. Today, as Denise mentioned, is Creative Expressions that is meeting following service. So please stay and have coffee. And it looks like there may be some snacks on the table. Yes, there's some snacks on the table. So break bread with us and continue to share in the fellowship. And now I invite Connie to come forward and give us our closing prayer.
Let us know that we are that I am that is. It is through each and every one of us, whole, complete, and perfect. It is called by our name. It is that individual personality that we were brought forth with. And we give thanks for it, knowing that it is for our use and for our expression and for the good life that we are intended to live. So we put aside any doubts at this time that we are not enough, just as we are. And we open our hearts and our minds to that greater yet to be, allowing the Spirit to guide us in the direction of a greater path, a greater energy, and a greater expression. That enhances and enriches our lives in every way. That which we need is provided when we say yes. We choose to be open and free. So I give thanks for everything that is coming through and for the ideas that came through this morning, those ideas that we are going to nurture and let grow and express through us. And I invite you to say with me, and so it is.